Hi, I'm Martin, and I have a big problem. This is the pile. As you can see, I buy way too many anime models, and I gotta get these guys out of their boxes. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna open all these boxes just for you. Welcome to Cate Frenzy. Today's figure is actually a concept art figure that you don't really see very often, and it's kind of special because of that. And before we begin, I want to give a shout out to Pokemon. It's celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. So to celebrate, I have a special co-host with me today. I have a Lapras, because COVID's still going. Lapras will be joining me today for this review, and I think her color scheme matches pretty well with the model we're doing, so let's get her out of the box. Okay, we got the package open. Today's picture from Ami is the Winter Snow Girl. Very appropriate for the season. Packaging out. There are two packages in here. What? Okay, so apparently I ordered two figures. I don't know what happened, but I have two figures all of a sudden. I thought to myself, wow, it's pretty expensive. I don't remember it being that expensive. This explains it. This explains why. What we're gonna do is that we're just gonna talk about the one figure. So let's talk about the box. The box is clear, which is kind of unique because normally you don't see a clear box for anime models. Normally clear boxes come with smaller models, and that's because they want you to see what you're buying. And it also helps cut costs down. The clear box is kind of interesting because it's very clean looking for this model. I was expecting a model box that didn't have any patterns on it, maybe like a white box with some linear design on it. So the box doesn't have much going on for it. The side of the box says old weapon. I guess that means she's a old weapon? And on the top it says the same thing at the back of the box saying Stricia, which I might need to look up because I don't know what the heck that means. But front of the box says Nobilis Oblige. I don't know what that means. It's kind of plain, so probably a 6 out of 10. It's not the greatest box. It's cool that it's clear, but there's not much else going on for it next to that. So yeah, 6 out of 10. Alright, so let's talk about the packaging. The packaging of this figure looks pretty okay from what I can see from the outside since the box is clear. Inside, we have the Myethos card, which is the company that designed this. Myethos. There's even a contact information on here and their QQ code. I don't use QQ, but that's good to know. There's a little thing on here that is the assembly manual. Fairly simple. Lock the item into place and lock the gun into the base, so that's also pretty easy to remember. Alright. Move the box aside. Okay, so... Whoa. Whoops. Okay, so we have a 3-layer box. Okay, so the bottom has the base and the weapon, so I'll show you that right over here. There it is. It's covered in plastic as well, so that's super good. The whole thing is completely wrapped in plastic. That's a very good plus. Normally it's only the top that's wrapped, so the whole thing is wrapped around, which is very good. That's a good sign. And the top layer has the little indents as usual, which keeps the figure hunkered down. That's super good. Alright. And as you can see, there's some plastic right here that covers her body, which is great. So the figure inside actually has some plastic on her top, on her legs, on her arm, and covering most of her body actually. This is very well protected. I can show you right here, I think. Whoop, don't drop. Whoop! Okay, it dropped. Whoops! Okay, well, that's fine. Like, there's plastic on here. Her whole body is covered in plastic, as you can see. That's pretty good protection. Overall, I can give this package a good 10 out of 10 because there isn't anything wrong with it and it's very covered in plastic. Oh, that's very cool. the base is actually in its own little bag that's like higher quality than the rest of the packaging. And the gun is in there's one package. And there's 2 packages. Alright, so let's get her onto her base. She has some holes here on her base for her feet. There's one right here for her toe, and there's one up here for her ankle. And then we're just gonna put this in. Simple enough. Okay, it seems stable, that's good. That's good to see. Alright, and we got her arm. It's got a little joint on it too. We're gonna throw her arm in. There's a very specific little hole for it. Okay, that's on. Easy enough. And then the back part just anchors down into the back hole right here. Okay. And there we go. So now that we got her out of the box, I'm sure you're all wondering what her name is, because I have not said what her name is yet. And that's for good reason. Do you want to know what her name is? Her name is S. That's right. You heard me. Her name is S. The thing about this figure is that this figure is actually part of a special line. So let's talk about some of her stats. So S comes to us from the Myethos company. Myethos is actually a company well known for its very elaborate and complex models, while the producer was Good Small Company. These 2 powerhouses have joined forces to create this new line based on the illustrator Neko's artwork. The artwork is under the name A to Z, which is why her name is S. This figure is a 1/7 scale, made of ABS and plastic, and it's sculpted by Sun Ya Ming. It costs $181.74 Canadian. Normally, these kind of things are a gamble because you're not quite sure if they'll do well because it's all up to the fans. However, there are people like me who buy these figures because they're so cool. So if you've been watching Cate Frenzy up until this point, you probably have realized that I've actually mentioned her before. 6. You want to buy some original character. A character that's created solely for a purpose of being turned into a model. Easter egg. So let's move on to my favorite part, the Sculpt and Paint. The Sculpt and Paint on this character is pretty plain, but there's a lot of cool things going on in the inner workings of this figure. The one thing I want to point out right away is her blue hair. Even though she has blue hair, she has 2 things in her hair that set her apart. The 2 things are the flower and the hair clip. Normally when you see characters in anime, a hair clip means that the character is more youthful. Most characters in anime who wear clips in their hair are usually younger, or they give off a more childlike kind of quality to them. And that makes it so she seems actually a little bit more gentle than she initially seems. And the flower usually also means that she has a sort of warmth to her. People in anime don't just wear accessories, usually they mean something. As for the eyes, that also shows you that she has this kind of indifference to you because she's looking away from you. Anime models who are looking away usually mean that they don't want to take a look at you, they're indifferent, they don't even care about you. And, you know, that goes with her whole aesthetic that she's this person that's kind of cold, right? But the eyes have a slight green tint to them. So they almost feel like they're going for a look where she has these piercing eyes, but she kind of might care about you just a little bit. I do also want to point out the figure has Noblesse Oblige on her coat. So Noblesse Oblige actually means that if you are of noble status, that you must treat people underneath you with dignity and honor, just like how you would treat anybody of your same social status. You can get from that this military outfit that she's with is probably around the same kind of philosophy. Make sure that you treat people that you protect with the same kind of quality. So that's kind of a cool little detail. Although a lot of people in Japan like to use foreign words to describe their characters, and sometimes they don't really know what they're actually talking about, but it just sounds cool. So Noblesse Oblige does sound pretty cool if you just have it on her coat, even if you don't know what it means. As for her clothes, they're really quite fashionable. It pulls a lot from Japanese street fashion. You have the accordion skirt, the black heels, you have the blouse which is of 2 layers, and the bow which is super cute. And then you also have the really nice floral design on her shirt. The floral design is nice because it adds a little bit of depth to her design, and I really like things like this where they add a little bit of design to it just to make it look not as simple. Then she also has her coat. Normally when characters wear coats, they think they're very badass because they're wearing it off their shoulder. Yu-Gi-Oh! Excuse me about that. These characters have different things about them that give them a lot of personality. So coats that hang off the side, like this one, basically show you that she is kind of a badass, because in the old days, Japanese people had these, they call them delinquents, or bancho. The bancho usually wore their coats off their sleeves, and they would get into fights all the time. So like, she's kind of got that bancho look to her where she's wearing her coat off her sleeves. It's a thing that they do. With this character, you get different things going with her. Like on her back, you have this giant weapon. And again, this is one of those Japanese anime tropes where you get a giant weapon and a person who's very skinny and they don't really look like they can hold that weight. You know, that's the fun anime bullshit. That's the great thing about anime. You get these really weird images where it's like girl who's super skinny that's carrying a really heavy looking weapon and she doesn't seem to be struggling at all. So that's something that you see pretty often in these kind of models. The cool thing about the sheath that she uses to carry her weapons is that the sheath itself kind of has this heart-shaped pattern on it, which is like right over here. See that? There's a heart-shaped pattern. I like the fact that they did that because it makes her look a lot more interesting that way. And her swords aren't actually swords. They are actually batons, really long batons, because they don't have a sharp point to them. They're actually stubbed at the end. So that also gives off the appearance that this character is more noble in the aspect because she's not meant to kill, she's meant to stun. She has two of these weapons. The sword batons, they have these little revers on them, which is pretty fun because you see this design in things like Attack on Titan and Nero from Devil May Cry, and it's kind of meant to like rev up the attack before you hit people. So that's pretty cool. I always like the idea of, you know, random like car parts on anime swords because that's that cool anime bullshit. And then we also have that whole military look to her as well because we have all the belts across her waist. The waist has the knight's belts. They're just kind of pockets. She does have a gun. It doesn't come out of her holster, and that's pretty much the majority of her design. The base is kind of plain. It doesn't have much going on for it. And I kind of wish that there was more going on, like some rocks maybe or rubble around her. I know that would rise up cost for this model, but I think it really would help with the appeal of this character. Like the texture looks kind of cheap. It doesn't really look as nice as the rest of the model, so it kind of takes away from the whole model's look. So 7 out of 10 is what I'm going to give to her for her sculpt score. As for her paint job, her paint's pretty good actually. I like the fact that it's a matte color rather than a shiny color. The matte actually adds a lot of depth to her, and you don't really see too many anime models with this kind of coloring. Normally they're very bright and vibrant, just like Cheryl here, or like Agretsuko, right? Like they're really bright colors. This model is a more matte looking character, and I think that helps her stand out between all the other models that you may own. Her hair has a really nice vibrancy to it. The eyes are very piercing. The white blouse is extremely clean. The base could be a little bit better. It's gray, it's rock, it's cement, whatever it is. So that's fine, but overall the paint's pretty good. It's a very clean paint job. I didn't see any sort of issues when it came to the paint. No like little small, blips of paint on the little barcodes on her weapon, on her coat, on her jacket, on her little name tag in the back here. And overall, I think the paint is quite good. So the paint will get a 10 out of 10. Honestly, designs like this have been oversaturating the market as of late, especially in Japan and China's mobile markets. The whole idea of militaristic females with cool weapons has been done to death now with things like Arknights and other gacha games. These gacha games have been driving the economy in both those countries, and the thing about them is that they kind of promote this whole idea of collect all the girls and then get your crazy gambling on because Pokemon! See? Full circle! Woo! These kind of designs are gonna be liked by some people and hated by others. I've seen too many of these lately, so I'm gonna give this character an overall appeal of 7 out of 10. So overall score is 80%. If you like the idea of this model, then yeah, pick her up. If you have some spare space in your room, she's a pretty good model to fill space. And if you don't like the idea of models like this, then yeah, stay the hell away. Her design is both her positive and her negative. If you want to get something cool like this, you could probably find something more interesting. But if you want to collect all the girls, aka gotcha style, there are going to be 26 of them probably eventually. So start collecting them now before they start becoming too numerous and just destroys your wallet. And that wraps it up for this week's episode. If you haven't already, check out episode 1 and 2 of Cate Frenzy, which include people like Cheryl here. And if you like, subscribe, give a comment, send it to your friends, do whatever heck you like with this video. You'll see the links at the end of this video right after this message. Bye!